Front, live on Facebook. And today my guest is a fellow Marine, although there's a caveat to that, which I'm looking forward to grilling him about. And this gentleman's name is Andrew DeLeon. He is an ambassador to Carry the Load. He's been a great supporter of Carry the Load. And I see that you're wearing your Carry the Load colors as well as your Marine Corps colors. Hey,
that's right.
I would expect nothing less from you, Marine. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, Todd, how you doing?
I'm doing very, very well. As we were just telling everybody before we came live, the old fat Marine is sitting inside, because it's too hot out there for me. But the younger, well-equipped, in shape Marine, that's what you're doing. You're outside. So, hey, good to see you.
Gotta stay frosty.
Got it.
Good to see
That's
you.
exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, I want to jump right into this. And, as we've talked about, and as a lot of people are now tuning in to find out, people want to hear about your, what you learned in the Marine Corps, what you learned in your time in service that you carry with you to this day. So your time on the front line, so to speak, we're going to hear a little bit about that as we go on. And hopefully we can do that with a really good story. Now, I've got a little bit of a head start on a lot of our guests because you and I got to spend some time out on the relay for Carry the Load.
Yep.
Right away was drawn to your professionalism. Right away was drawn to your, your carriage. You really you stood out. And so what I'd really love to hear, though, from you is who was Drew before the Marine Corps and why did you end up in the Marine Corps?
And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I was a little punk little kid, always getting in trouble, had no kind of direction. The only thing I was dedicated to was sports. So I think sports really helped me not get into too much trouble because I played at such a high level. It wasn't just for fun. I was playing for club teams. I was trying to go for scholarships. I was, traveling the U.S. playing for a team. It's the sport my family loved. My dad grew up playing. But other than that,
And
I didn't know.
What sport is that? Don't leave us hanging. What sport?
Soccer. Yeah, soccer.
Okay.
Other than that, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what college or if college was even in the game plan. My mom would tell you in a heartbeat that I am very smart, but also very lazy. And so I could pick up a subject in school with no problem, but if you told me to sit down and study for a test, couldn't do it. And I would just skate on by. I ended up somehow graduating high school with a B average, but I easily could have got an A. But yeah, I didn't really put out no college applications. Military was in my family. My grandfather was a Marine. I have cousins on my dad's side that are Marines, but my mom's side is all Army. So it was kind of a clash all the time growing up. But honestly, things kind of just snapped to when 9/11 happened. That's when I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And it was my first semester in college. I was going to a little community college here in Dallas, Richland College. And once again, this is how much of a slacker I was. I was actually skipping class when 9/11 happened. And I actually was in our student center there and looking up on TV, I see, the towers falling. And I look to my right and there's an Army recruiter sitting right there at his stand with his fist balled up. I can see his eyes tearing up. And I didn't walk over there to him, but just something in me just snapped. I got up after watching the whole thing. I actually walked to class that I was skipping. And the professor asked me, why I was late. And I told him I was watching the Twin Towers fall. And he didn't know what I was talking about. And I was like, turn on the news. Like, it's on right now. And he turned it on, dismissed the class. And that night I went home and I told both my parents I want to join the military. They kind of just tossed it to the side, but I knew I wanted to. A couple days later, a buddy of mine that was a senior in high school called me, and then he told me, hey, I'm going to the Marine Corps recruiting office tomorrow. Do you want to come? I said yes. And me, him, and two other of our buddies, all four of us went. And it was probably the easiest sell the recruiter ever had. We walked in and we literally told them, we're ready to join. You don't have to sell us on anything. Tell us where to sign. Let's pick our jobs. Let us go. And of course, I had to wait for them to graduate high school since they were seniors and I was a year older than them. But that summer we left, August of 2002. I was officially in boot camp, MCRD, San Diego. That started on this journey. And I think since then, the main thing I can take from my military experience is the fact that I don't know how to give up, that I keep pushing through. I've failed a lot. I've made bad decisions, but I learn from them, or at least I try to, but I don't give up.
So I want to take you back real quick to that day, 9/11, and it's a day that is seared in all of our minds, and we all know it was our JFK, it was our Pearl Harbor. I mean, and for those who were unlucky enough to have all three in their minds, I know they still remember that one too. What tell me your emotions as you watched it. What was going through your head? Did you know what was happening?
I didn't know fully what was happening. Um, I was just more shocked. Like I've never seen anything, you know, at that kind of magnitude, that kind of destruction, like in person. Like I've seen action movies, yes, but to actually see something like that, um, I grew up with my parents talking about when they remember JFK being, assassinated, and they were in elementary school, but they could still remember. I had nothing to relate to that kind of, to their story until I saw the towers fall, and it took me a while after doing research and learning who did it, and the fact that we couldn't go to war, like, and I was old enough to know, like, I'm in that age range where if the draft was coming, I'm going, you know. But yeah, in that moment, all I could say was I was in shock, like just utter shock. And then after came rage, came, I wanted revenge. Um, and then after that passed, then it was all about the brotherhood. Like I stayed in, I kept fighting for my buddies next to me, you know. Um, oh yeah, I went.
So no, go ahead, please continue.
Um, like I signed to fight for my country, but you know, I was definitely willing to die for the buddy right next to me, if need be.
So did you guys all go right into the infantry?
No, we all were in. Actually, when we all signed up, three of us left together. One of us went a month and a half later.
Okay.
He had an issue to resolve, but we all chose different career fields.
And what about
And
you? What did
after,
you choose?
um, I went heavy artillery. So,
Okay.
but I jumped through. I did a little aviation. I did a little of heavy artillery, and then I got out. Um, but I did 5 years active, and then I got out because my father was diagnosed with leukemia. So I decided to come home. I'm the only son, so I made the choice to leave active duty. And when I got home a couple months later, he passed away. I don't regret that decision, but as soon as he passed, I missed the camaraderie, I missed the brotherhood, and I got back in. But I got back into the reserve side of things because I didn't want to leave my mother and sister alone at that time. I needed to be close to home.
So you spent 5 years on active duty. During that time, were you over in Iraq and Afghanistan?
I did the tour, yes. I did one. And it was 2006 into 2007. And yeah, I did my job like I was supposed to. And
It's hard for you to talk about, I can tell.
yeah, it is. I don't really talk about it with a lot of people. But
Is there anything that sticks out in your mind from that time?
just the nasty MREs they eat.
So let me get this straight. Of all the lessons you could have learned from the front, the lesson was to come back home and make sure your kids know, don't eat the MREs, kids.
Don't eat the MREs. No, I've learned perseverance. I've learned commitment. I've learned to take pride in what I do and who I am. And like I said, more than anything, definitely determination. I was determined to come home. I was determined to see my family again. And I made it back. I came back, came home. And I still, I take those lessons into everything I go into today, whether it was the rest of my Marine Corps career or going back to school to finish my degree, or any 9-to-5 job I had while in school, or even joining when I joined the Dallas Fire Department. And even now, when I decided to join the Air Force, I've taken some of the lessons I've learned in the Marine Corps and taken it over to them.
Okay, so you're jumping ahead a little bit. We're gonna get to that, but I want to. Okay, so you have how many children now?
I have 3.
You have 3 children.
Yes,
The most
I have a
recent
son,
is 2 months old.
2 months old. He is, I guess you can call him, or what they started calling him, the COVID babies. He was born during this time, during this pandemic. That was a little weird because it was completely different delivery for my son, where family was there, friends were there, no kind of restrictions to, when my son that was recently born, it was just me, only I was allowed. No other visitors allowed, masked the whole time. It was very strange because my whole family and friends, a lot of them still haven't met my son, but my mother, my sister, they couldn't meet my son until 2 weeks after we got out the hospital. And we still are taking a lot of precautions to keep him safe. But yeah, it was interesting. It was definitely a weird experience. But I'm glad he just came out healthy.
So I want to fast forward. He is now doing all the things that you were doing. He is a smart boy. I understand, but let's fast forward. You've got this smart young man, but he's just not applying himself. He's just, maybe he's a little lazy, as you're talking about, but you can see all this potential in him. What lesson are you going to pass on to him by way of a story from your experience in the Marine Corps?
I plan on being very brutally honest with my children. I know that might backfire, because if they know exactly what I did, then they might go out and do the same thing and turn around and use it in my face. Like, well, you did it. Why can't I do it? Well, I would hope that me being honest with them in that, on that level, when that time comes, I'm hoping I can communicate not only what I did, but the lessons I took from it, the consequences I faced for my actions. And I'm hoping a little scared straight might come into play with them. I know a lot of it did when my father had those kind of talks with me. There's a lot of stuff I didn't know he did until he told me when I was of age. And hearing that from a man that I deeply respected put me on a better path. I didn't want to go, and I didn't have the, I didn't want to take the chances and say, hey, well, you did it, I'm going to do it. No, like, if this is the man I respected, then I'm going to heed to his word and his lessons. And I hope that my children do the same. And I can only hope that when they do, that just means that me and my wife have done a good job of raising them, you know, in the right way. But I know they're going to make mistakes. I just hope they learn from those mistakes, and it's nothing that will cost them their freedom or anybody else's lives, or their lives for that matter. But if they're just little punk kids like I was, then I'll definitely throw military on the table. I got no problem. Like, hey, this is where I learned my lessons. I think you need to go as well. I won't push the Marine Corps. I'll just, here's all the options. Choose.
Well, you know, it's funny as you were talking about that, Drew. I was thinking back, and I remember giving libo briefs, you know, to my Marines, and for you know, those listening who don't understand what those are, a liberty brief, or libo brief as we called them, was where we gave them kind of the safety spiel before they went out on town and got into trouble and whatnot. And I used to almost tell them the same thing, and I'd say, hey, listen, one of you is going to get in trouble, and when you're not going to listen to what I'm saying, but you're going to get in trouble, and when you come back, I'm going to have to come down on you. I have a guilty feeling about that, gents, because it's probably what you're doing or what you do to get in trouble. It's not that I never did it. I didn't get caught. And so you have to understand that when you do these things that you're not supposed to do, you have to understand that you have to take on the consequences of your actions. Mm-hmm. Not because I didn't do it, but because I didn't get caught. So it's funny, as you were talking about that's what was going through my head a little bit.
I definitely remember those weekly libo briefs.
Oh yes, absolutely. Well, okay, so you stayed in the Marine Corps Reserve, but you told everybody as well that you were in the fire department. Tell us about your experience there.
So I was actually one of those little boys that always wanted to be a firefighter. I lived, a couple blocks away from the fire station that I actually did my first shift in when I got out the academy.
Really?
Which was very surreal, because my whole life I never went inside that fire station. I would walk by it going to school, but never spoke to the guys there because I just never saw them. But my very first shift out of the fire academy was at that station, and it was, like I said, that's the only word I could put is surreal. Like, I just couldn't believe it. And I told the guy there, I was like, I grew up right down that street right there. And I walked past this station for many years, every day of my life, and never came in here. And this is my very first shift, and it's here. So I took that as a sign, as I was in a place where I was supposed to be. It took me a couple tries to get onto the fire department. It wasn't apply and get on. It took me.
Sure, it goes back to your perseverance.
It took me 3 tries. It took me 3 tries to get on. So that was 3 years. And I finally made it. It was one of the most exciting news, that I received. Like, hey, you're, welcome aboard. You're hired. This and that. And I remember, I remember just having lunch with a friend, and I was walking back to my car, and I read my email saying that I'd been hired on, and I literally yelled in the middle of the street. Like, I'm a grown man, and I'm yelling in the middle of the street in excitement because this was my dream job, to be a firefighter. I tried in other cities, but I really wanted Dallas, and that's who called me back. So that was in 2014. I got on in 2014, and in the end of 2016, I left because I had joined back into the military, and I had to get retrained into a whole new branch. But they told me, come on back when I'm ready. So
okay,
I'm
hold on.
back.
You can't just gloss that over. Because I joined a whole nother branch. Now, for those of you watching out there, if you haven't figured this out about me, I'm a little partial towards the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
If you had noticed. And so it's not completely uncommon for somebody to go from one of the other branches to the Marine Corps, but it is very uncommon for people to go from the Marine Corps to one of the other branches.
Yeah.
What led to that?
Well, as you can see, I take pride as well.
I see that.
I have a lot of Marine Corps memorabilia, and I love it. I wear it. It's all over my house. I have a flag flying outside of my house. But no, I honestly, when I left to get back in, was because the city's our pension fund, our retirement was not looking too good. So I needed a plan B. And with kids now, it's not just about me no more. I was like, look, I got this many years in service. Why not get back in and finish up? And I did. I went to the prior service Marine Corps recruiter. I was like, look, I want to get back in. And he was like, well, we're not taking anybody right now. We're downsizing. I was like, come on. And he's like, try back. Try back in like 4 to 6 months. Okay. I tried back in 4. I called him up. I was like, hey, I want to get back in. I want to get back into the Marine Corps. And he was like, all right, well, what rank did you get out as? I was like, well, I was a sergeant. He said, okay, well, at this point, we're still kicking people out, but I can get 3 new guys in place of you. So they want 3 new boots before prior service. I said, okay, that was strike 2 right there. And he was like, I don't see it happening anytime soon. So I said, okay. I walked right out of his office. I walked right next door to the Air Force Reserve recruiter. And I was like, look, I have this many years in service. I'm a sergeant. I want to get back into the military. There's no room in the Marine Corps for me no more. Can you help me? And he said, I enlist more prior service Marines than anybody else into the Air Force Reserve. I said, okay. And he said, I can give you a bonus and you can choose whatever job you want. I said, sounds good to me. Let's sign on the line. So, yep, it hurt my pride. It hurt my pride a lot to sign on that line. But at the end of the day, I'm doing it for my family, for my kids, to make sure we are well taken care of, down the road. I have to play the big picture. And
Absolutely.
I also wanted to get back in because I wanted to set a good example for my kids. I wanted to be the role model that my father was to me. My father never did, military service, but he did graduate college, but he was a hard worker. He was a very respectable man. Everybody loved him, everybody. And if I can even achieve even that much of respect that he had and my kids having me, then it was all worth it. And I want to set the bar high for my kids. You know, knowing that I'm on the fire department, that I was in the Marine Corps, now that I'm in the Air Force, that I have a college degree. Like, I want them to achieve more than I, ever have. But I don't stop.
So,
I'm always looking for the next challenge.
okay, well, so I just kind of wanted to run through that, okay, because it's very possible that you've got a couple of mothers out there watching this who have a deep appreciation for Carry the Load, and they're probably going, golly, he sounds like my son right now. Because I know if my mom were watching this back when I was, that kid, this is what she would have said. That's my kid. He's not focused. He's smart, but he's lazy. And since that time, you've gone on to be a Marine, a fireman. You're now in the Air Force. I mean, what's next? You going into the CIA next, or what?
I've actually started looking into federal jobs. I would like
Really?
one of those 3-letter agencies. It doesn't matter. ATF, DEA, FBI, CIA. I want to know what the requirements are. And I want
So I
more.
just kind of threw that out there, and you're saying, yeah, why not? Let's go for it. Hey, you know what? Don't stop there. Why don't we'll go for NFL, MLB, MLS? Why not?
No,
Don't stop.
my back and knees can't take that. I can't do that. But I think my first year on Carry the Load with the relay back in 2018, I even told Debbie the same thing when she asked, and I told her I want a federal job, and it's still my goal. And if I can't make the requirements or the age if I don't get on before the age cutoff, then I'll look for the next challenge. I'm always looking for something. That's what brought me to Carry the Load. I needed something to push me physically and mentally, and I wanted to just be involved in something as impactful as Carry the Load, especially with two organizations that are dear to my heart, the Marine Corps and the fire department. And when they reached out and said, do you want to bike 4,300 miles down the West Coast? I said, hell yeah. They said,
sure. Doesn't
yeah.
everybody?
They said, are you a cyclist? And I said, hell yeah. I wasn't at the time, but I quickly became one.
But you knew you could be one.
Yes, that's what, ain't that what Marines do? We shoot first, ask questions later. We go head first. We go into danger. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wasn't prepared. I started to try and prepare myself, but I wasn't prepared for that 4,300 journey. But I took it on, and it was
you figured it out.
I did. I learned on the go. I adapted and overcame. And that was one of the best experiences in my life. Not only bonding with the team, seeing the country on a bike, but hearing all those amazing stories, meeting all those veterans, meeting first responders, meeting the families that have lost somebody on whatever service that they're in, and meeting other Marines like yourself, Todd, and it was great. And since then I've been hooked. I did it last year on Midwest. I was hoping to do it this year on the East Coast, but I'll have to wait till next year. But my goal is to hit every route, every single mile, and talk to as many people as possible, sharing stories and helping people, talk about their loved ones. Because, you said it yourself, we all die 2 deaths in this lifetime, and one is when we actually physically die, but the second is when the last person speaks our name for the last time. And I want to make sure that never happens to anybody's loved one. So,
well, I want to, first of all, I want to throw a little disclaimer out there. And for those of you who have served in the Air Force, please know that that our jousting comes from the most respectful of places, because
Definitely.
listen, we're just, Marines are narcissists. That's kind of how we are. But we think we're the greatest, but we actually have such a tremendous respect that carry the load for all the branches. Everyone has a tremendous amount of respect from us because of the jobs that they all do in keeping us safe. And we're now kind of at the point. There's a couple of questions that I want to ask you to kind of take this down the stretch. Number one is, Carry the Flag is one of our programs, and it's about educating the youth. It's about teaching people what it means to be a patriot. And one of the things that we like to throw out there is a phrase that says, "Be the flag." I want to know, what does that mean to you? How, I know I could talk about how you embody that, but I want you to help verbalize and articulate for people, what does it mean to be the flag?
To me, it means to, oh, hello, Todd?
No, we're good. We're good. Uh, I've got
Oh,
I've
sorry.
got problem I've got problems with my phone that even when I tell people not to disturb me, it still rings through. So
Gotcha.
please,
Okay.
what does it mean to be the flag?
Um, to me, to be the flag is, I mean, I look at the flag as a very, it's patriotism, it's patriotic. It's our symbol of this great country that we live in, and it means pride. It means, it's. I try and to live my life every day, in the utmost. Uh, and I'm trying to figure out the words.
I mean, I can help you a little bit. When I hear "be the flag," I look at people like you, Drew. I mean, you continue to serve this country. You continue to put forth everything you have, and you probably give more to this country than you take. And when you talk about people like you, we don't have enough of you.
See,
And
I mean, I appreciate that. Trust me, I appreciate, but I, I don't, I don't. Well, first of all, I don't like talking about myself. But
that's all right. I'll talk about you.
um, when I think of, like you said, people like me, I think of people, like you. You know what I mean? And my buddy, that good friend of mine, who I keep close to my heart when I do carry the load, Sergeant Thomas Callahan. I think of people like him. I think of one of my great mentors, Sergeant Hector Reynoso. Those guys, in my eyes, like I am in the shadows of them. I'm in the shadows of people, of like you and those two that I mentioned, because I feel like I look good on paper, but maybe that's why I keep going and going, because I just feel like I haven't accomplished enough. And maybe that's why I won't ever stop, because I'm trying, at the end of the day, even though he's no longer here, I'm just still trying to make my dad proud of me. Um,
I can
and
tell that you had a very, very strong relationship with him, and he was obviously very impactful. And man, that is, there's not enough of that in the world anymore. And I respect and admire the relationship you have with him. I'm fortunate enough to be able to say the same thing, and that's where I think we owe it, not just to our children, but to the community, to continue being that role model that you're being. And, you know, you mentioned just a minute ago, you're the Marine that you carry with you and carry the load. And I'd like for you to mention his name again. And
His
I'd
name is
love for you to
Sergeant Thomas Callahan.
tell us a little bit about him.
He was killed in 2006, and he left behind a wife and 4 children, 2 girls, 2 boys. And at that time, he was older. Let's see, I was 23 at the time, and he was 35. So his kids were from ages 3 to 7, and great kids. And he had no problem inviting, you know, our whole squad over for any kind of cookout, or, you know, drink a couple beers or any kind of gathering. And he treated us like we were his sons. And even though my father was back in Texas, he was real quick to give me a lot of fatherly advice, lessons that he had learned. And, you know, I like to think that since I spent a lot of time with him and seeing him, how he raises kids, that, you know, there's some of the lessons that he taught me, you know, I'm trying to instill in my own kids. Because I seen how he did it from a military aspect. Like I had my own father, he taught me his lessons, but he wasn't a military dad. This is a man that I truly respected, and he was a military dad. He was a Marine dad. He had a very successful career and a very happy family. And I wanted to emulate that. I wanted to do exactly, you know, how he was doing it when I had my own family. And now that I do, you know, my kids I got 2 3-year-olds and a 2-month-old. And now that my 3-year-olds, they're able to comprehend more what I'm telling them and some of the lessons I'm trying to teach them. Now I'm starting to think back more and more of the lessons I learned from him, and trying to do the same. But yeah, he's my buddy. He was a good friend of mine, and I carry him, you know, every time I step out there on that road with Carry the Load, along with others that have asked me to carry. But he's at the front of the line, and he'll stay there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Drew, I really appreciate you joining us. I appreciate you sharing things with us. It was obvious that this was a little emotional for you at points, and I appreciate you coming on and you know, sharing some of your scars. I mean, that takes a lot of guts, and we appreciate it. So we're blessed to have you, and honored to have you as a part of Carry the Load, and we hope that you continue to do so.
Thanks for taking the time to talk to me, Todd. Thanks for not ragging me too hard on the Air Force.
That's okay, Airman. Don't you worry about it.
Hey, you know, real quick though, funny story is when I checked in my very first day checking into the new unit, they addressed me as the Marine. They're like, "Oh, you're the Marine that we've been waiting on. Oh, we've heard about you coming down the pipeline. You're the Marine." And I was like, on my chest now it says Air Force, but I'll take it. I'll take it. So
that's awesome.
Still to this day, I've been in now 3 years, and they still call me the Marine. They're like, "Oh, what's up, Marine?" So that title never goes away. It doesn't matter what branch you're in.
It doesn't. You're absolutely right. It doesn't, nor should it. And that's you know, I mean, it's kind of like the title American. You know, there's a lot of things that come and go about this country that we just as soon forget or leave behind. But at the end of the day, we're an American, and we need to wear that title just as proudly. So
that's right,
Drew. Thank you very much. Again, I appreciate you. You're a very respected individual, man. I hope you get those 3 letters, whatever they are, and just make sure you don't forget about Carry the Load along the way.
Definitely won't. I love the organization. I love everybody that's involved, and I can't wait to do it again next year.
Awesome. Very good. Well, for everyone else still watching, we do appreciate you joining us. And remember, we always want to remind you to be the flag number 1 and always have a very good answer to this question. Who are you carrying?